names too. Okay, we're going to start. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll be getting started in a few minutes.
Great, we'll give everyone a minute or two more to join and then we'll get started. Awesome. Okay, I think we're going to get started here. Hi, and welcome to the SANDAG and Caltrans Build NCC Virtual Open House. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to be with us to discuss construction impacts along the North Coast Corridor as part of Phase 1 Build NCC. My name is Caitlin Cummeth, and I work on the Build NCC team alongside my fellow panelists this evening. Today, we're going to be covering information from Carlsbad to Oceanside regarding the Carpool/HOV extension. Before we begin, I would like to provide you with the interpretation information. So for our interpretation services for this evening, if you have any connection or audio issues, join by phone via 699-900-9128. When prompted, enter ID number 853-3527-3659. For Spanish interpretation, click Interpretation at bottom of screen. Then click on Spanish. To hear only Spanish, click Mute Original Audio. If on a mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., press the ellipses, then Interpretation, and then choose your language. Spanish translated presentation in the chat. Now I'd like to hand it over to our interpreter for this evening, Carlos Diaz.
Thank you and good afternoon. Sorry for the pause there. Buenas tardes, bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Como acaban de indicar, se está ofreciendo servicio de interpretación simultánea. Para hacer uso del mismo, por favor desplácese a la barra inferior de su pantalla de Zoom donde aparecen sus controles y haga clic en el icono de interpretación, parece un globo terráqueo y de ahí seleccione español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular, tableta, etc., presione primero los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Por último, si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio o silenciar audio original. Gracias and thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Again, thank you to everyone for joining our team this evening. Tonight, we will go over the following topics listed below, starting with panelist introduction, a Build NCC project overview, Carlsbad to Oceanside Carpool/HOV extension overview, orange lane striping, the pilot program, as well as enhancing safety along the corridor, community enhancements, sound walls, project milestones, and at the end, we have time reserved for a Q&A. Now, before we begin, I'd like to just go over a few housekeeping items. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Your microphones will be muted throughout the presentation. If a question arises, please use the Q&A function to submit your question, and we will try our best to address it at the end of the presentation. However, if we don't address it, we will answer your question and follow up with you after the event. If you think of a question after the conclusion of the presentation, please email us at buildncc@keepsandiegomoving.com. Now, it's my pleasure to give a warm welcome to the Mayor of Carlsbad, Mayor Matt Hall.
Thank you, Caitlin. Sorry again for the pause. And thank you very much for inviting me here to speak tonight. I think it's safe to say that our community is very excited about seeing this project come to life, especially now that the construction has actually reached Carlsbad. Even though our city doesn't control I-5, we're very much affected by it. Like the railroad, this is a major piece of regional infrastructure that goes right through our city. I would like to thank the project team for holding this meeting so our residents can learn more about what is planned. I would also like to thank Caltrans and SANDAG for making communication a very high priority. I know no one likes to live through a big construction project, but knowing what to expect makes it much easier. Another thing that should make construction a little easier is to knowing that there are huge benefits to Carlsbad. And those benefits are just not a wider freeway. You will hear more about that tonight. But just as a preview, you can look forward to new public art under the Chestnut Underpass and the preservation and restoration of significant amount of coastal habitat. Again, I would like to thank SANDAG and Caltrans for being good partners with the city of Carlsbad. And we look forward to working with you to ensure our community is well informed as construction continues through Carlsbad. Thank you, Caitlin, and it's back to you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Hall. Now, it's my also pleasure to be introducing our first panelist for this evening, Mohammed Khatib. Mohammed is a project manager for Build NCC and oversees all aspects of the current and future construction. Over to you, Mohammed.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Mayor Hall, for the kind words. And once again, welcome to our open house for the Carlsbad to Oceanside HOV Extension Project, presented to you by Build NCC. I'd like to thank everyone in attendance tonight as we provide an overview of the North Coast Corridor Program, discuss current construction projects, progress, and upcoming construction goals. So before we begin the content of the presentation, we'd like to start off with a brief polling question to learn more about our audience. What is your connection to North County? Please take a minute to answer the polling, and then we'll pause for about half a minute to a minute to collect the responses and tally them up. Caitlin, will you let us know when we get the results?
Yes, absolutely. And it'll
Thank
show
you.
on screen.
Oh, awesome.
The results are in, Mohammed.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. And the overwhelming majority I see live within the corridor. And we hope that these NCC improvements will only enhance the quality of life for you and the region. All right, next slide, please. Now let's talk about how Build NCC came about, okay? With I-5 being only one of two north-south transportation corridors in the region, it really is an economic lifeline to the county. And with its geographic location right along our beautiful coast, it also serves as the gateway to San Diego. This route was established in the 60s with minimal improvements up until now, okay? These improvements were triggered by a monumental effort led by Caltrans and SANDAG in collaboration with Coastal Commission staff, various resource agencies, the coastal cities, and the communities to develop a vision for the corridor, resulting in the unanimous approval of the Public Works Plan. What is the Public Works Plan? Well, I'm glad you asked. So it's a 40-year comprehensive multimodal set of improvements that include transit with the objective of double tracking the rail corridor from downtown to the county line. Highway improvements to add express lanes on I-5 from La Jolla Village Drive to Harbor Drive in Oceanside, and habitat restoration and coastal access improvements, like providing a bike facility that parallels I-5. Next slide, please. So you might be thinking 40 years seems like a really long time, but the good news is that several of the improvements are in construction or have been completed. So this map here shows a series of projects that were bundled to make up what we call phase 1 of Build NCC, with a construction price tag of $870 million. So phase 1 consists of extending a single HOV lane in each direction from Loma Santa Fe to SR 78, adding almost 14 miles of new HOV, with the first 8 to 9 miles that you see in blue anticipated to open to traffic by end of the year, early next year, and the remaining stretch in yellow to open by end of 22. Note that that's part of the phase 1. Phase 2 improvements will add that second express lane in each direction, and that's scheduled for construction in 2035 per the current regional transportation plan. So that's in the future years. Other phase 1 improvements include the replacement of the San Elijo Highway and rail bridges, where the rail bridge was completed in the summer of 2019, and the highway bridge is near completion. Another feature of phase 1 are sound walls on private property. And then a feature that you see on the map in green is the San Elijo Lagoon restoration, which is also substantially complete. As you can see on the map, the majority of the project at the southern end are near completion, because we knew that the key to extending the HOV lanes northerly was the replacement of the San Elijo Highway Bridge. Since this work is within the lagoon, we also coordinated the timing of the double track and restoration work to minimize impacts per the Public Works Plan. All right, so the next few slides, we'll be taking a closer look at our current construction progress. Thank you. So here is a photo of our San Elijo Lagoon double track that was completed in 2019. This used to be a single track wooden trestle bridge. Now it is a reinforced concrete structure wide enough to accommodate 2 tracks and help increase frequency of trips. Next slide, please. Okay, and here's an example of a community enhancement at Santa Fe that will reconnect communities, improve coastal access by providing room for bike lanes and wide sidewalks, along with transportation art in alignment with community character. There will be, like Mayor Hall alluded to earlier, an enhancement similar to this at Chestnut in the city, Chestnut Avenue in the city of Carlsbad. And we'll talk a little more in depth about that a little later in this presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, and here's a visual simulation of another active transportation feature where the pedestrian bridge is suspended from the bottom of the San Elijo Highway Bridge to provide north-south connectivity across the lagoon and complementing the trail network in the area. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this slide here depicts how some of the active transportation features are interconnected. For instance, the square at the bottom right is the pedestrian bridge that we just talked about in the previous slide that will allow folks on the south side of the lagoon to cross to Manchester, and from there head westerly along the multi-use trail depicted in the left square, and then northerly between the off-ramp and sound wall along a trail that will eventually connect to Birmingham Drive. And that simulation is in the top right square. Also, as you can see here, the San Elijo Highway Bridge is substantially complete, and it's been quite a journey to get here. Working in the wet conditions with sensitive utilities nearby presented a lot of challenges that our construction team, contractor, and designers were able to overcome and provide a new bridge that is approximately twice as long to facilitate tidal flushing within the lagoon, and almost twice as wide to accommodate the future phase 2 express lanes. So also you see one more note, thank you, Caitlin, that the work pad and rock that you see under the bridge is the final piece of work to be removed to complete the San Elijo Lagoon restoration effort. Thus far, the San Elijo Lagoon restoration has shown significant improvement in health with enhanced tidal circulation, creation of habitat, and restoration of over 470 acres. Okay, so before we begin with the details of the Carlsbad to Oceanside HOV Extension Project, we'd like to prompt another polling question. What is your greatest concern regarding highway construction? And we'll take a minute here also to collect the answers. Thank you. Okay, the results are in, and looks like the winner is traffic at 61%. All right, so we appreciate the feedback, and hopefully we'll be able to alleviate some of those concerns here in this presentation. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so for the final project in the bundle of phase 1 improvement is our what we're calling our Carlsbad to Oceanside HOV project, which will extend the carpool lanes another 4 miles from Palomar Airport Road to just north of State Route 78. The other features included with this project are construction of an auxiliary lane in the southbound direction between Cannon and Palomar, an additional lane in the northbound direction to 78, sound wall construction, repairs on the Agua Hedionda Lagoon slopes, and the Chestnut Avenue community enhancement. Okay, next slide, please. So what to expect during construction? As Mayor Hall alluded to earlier, right? No pain, no gain. So on a majority of our highway contracts, night work, ramp closures, and detours are essential for construction. The good news is the majority of the widening for this 4-mile stretch is limited to the median with minimal impacts to ramps. So something that we've noticed in the beginning of construction projects, that there may be heavier than usual delays as traffic gets used to the construction impacts, such as temporary barriers and reduced lane widths. But with that said, our Build NCC team is active in informing the public in advance of construction impacts so folks can plan accordingly. Next slide, please. Okay, all right, so thank you. Okay, so this slide here is our staging exhibit that will help explain how the HOV lanes will be constructed. Traffic will be shifted to the outside or away from the median, and we will maintain the same number of lanes. However, those lanes will be reduced in width along with the inside shoulders to make room in the median for placement of the temporary barriers and to provide space for our work area. This project will also pilot the temporary striping that Mr. Brian Hadley will be discussing later in this presentation. So this staging configuration will also provide standard outside shoulders. And the only time that the number of lanes will be reduced would be during our temporary night closures. So this configuration here will be in place for approximately 12 to 15 months. After the completion of this stage, the HOV lanes would be open to traffic and temporary barriers would be shifted to the outside for the construction of auxiliary lanes. Okay, next slide, please. So after it's all said and done, the final product would provide one HOV lane in each direction, standard outside shoulders with variable width median shoulders. We'll also replace the median oleanders with a native coyote brush. And that's a simulation of what the product would look like. So next slide, please. And this is the Chestnut community enhancement. So as part of our phase 1 improvements, we collaborated with the city of Carlsbad on this location. The improvement here will include retaining the abutments of the undercrossing to provide room for bike lanes and wider sidewalks for improved east-west connectivity under I-5. We're also excited to incorporate the transportation art based on the city's recommendation. Next slide, please. So as far as the overall project schedule, this fall you'll see crews placing temporary barrier in the median, clearing the vegetation, install drainage and other utilities like fiber, and follow up with the construction of the pavement. Next fall, you'll see crews mobilized to the outside to start construction on the sound wall, the Chestnut community enhancement, and aux lanes. Next slide, please. Okay, so some of our upcoming milestones include the completion of the San Elijo Lagoon Highway Bridge, along with the pedestrian suspended bridge, and then the completion of the carpool lanes up to Palomar Airport Road. These two events will culminate with a ribbon cutting that's tracking for end of the year, early next year. And we will also be closing gaps within the San Elijo Lagoon Trail Network and completing a portion of the North Coast Bike Trail. As we know, with the addition of carpool lanes to our network, also comes sound walls within the corridor. And I'll now hand it over to my esteemed colleague, David Stebbins, to get into more detail about sound walls.
Thank you, Mohammed. There are 2 sound walls that are currently under construction in Carlsbad, and there's one more planned to start construction in 2022. Now, this slide, it shows 2 of the Carlsbad sound walls that are currently under construction at Altamira and at Harbor Point communities. And there's a rendering here that shows one of the options. There's 3 different types of walls we'll be building. We have some solid walls, some with glass or transparent panels to preserve views. And shown here, it's a hybrid wall with the solid wall and transparent panel at the top in order to preserve some of the light coming through the walls. Now, the transparent walls are available for the walls on private property. The walls that are closer to the freeway, it's mostly freeway views and they don't really have the same situation. Next slide, please. So this is a map of all of the walls recommended in the Carlsbad and Encinitas cities. We're building the walls in 2 phases. The phase 1 walls are shown in pink. Those are the ones that are currently under construction. These are all walls that are either in private property or close to or on the state property lines. The phase 2 walls are planned for 2035, and they're shown here in gray. The reason why these walls are planned for the future construction phase is because they're dependent on the future freeway widening. The walls are either on top of future embankment or future retaining walls that are being built when we do the ultimate widening of the freeway. Now in Carlsbad, we're recommending 15 walls total. 3 of the walls are in phase 1. Just north of Poinsettia Lane on the east side of the freeway are 2 sound walls that are currently in construction. They're in the Harbor Point and Altamira communities. There's another wall, it's just south of Tamarack Avenue on the east side of the freeway, and that's at the Casa Riviera apartment complex. And that's the wall that's going to start construction in 2022. In Encinitas, we have 11 total walls planned. 4 of them are in phase 1. Just north of Manchester on the east side of the freeway is a wall that recently completed construction. North of Birmingham Drive on the west side of the freeway, or I'm sorry, on the east side of the freeway, there's a wall that's currently under construction. And north of Santa Fe Drive, just north of Scripps Hospital, is a wall that is also completed construction already. And then south of Leucadia on the east side of the freeway is a wall at the Saxony community. And now I'd like to hand over the presentation to the resident engineer for the carpool extension through the city of Carlsbad. This is Brian Hadley.
Yeah, thanks, David. I'm going to keep my video off so you can hear me better. Highway, and it's orange lane striping. This first one you see is just kind of an aerial view on a set of plans, but what this is a program and lower speeds in our work zones. It's something that other countries and like Canada and Europe, they use orange striping in construction zones, and in the United States, it's been tried in 3 other states, Wisconsin, Texas, and Kentucky before. And in those cases, they've replaced the white striping and yellow striping with orange striping completely. On our project, we're going to use orange, but as a contrast color. And like we use black to contrast lane lines on permanent delineation. And this is going to be applied in the segment 4 project between Palomar Airport Road and State Route 78 during our stage construction work. We're going to do some outreach to the public starting this fall, and then after that gets implemented in November, there'll be some surveys for public opinion of it, and that'll continue for a while. Like I said, this was been tried before in other states, but what's different in California is we're doing it as a contrast color and still keeping the normal delineation, so that we don't need to be too concerned if like the orange doesn't show up as well at night or it fades or something. This is a way to enhance normal striping and with that orange color make people aware it's a work zone, just like you're aware from orange signing, but also keep the normal delineation we always use with the yellow left edge line and white lane lines and white right edge lines. So I'll go, and then how these come about is on the federal level and the state level, you have like manuals of uniform traffic control devices that are your standard signs and markings you use. And so when you want to do something different, you ask the Federal Highway Administration and then also a department in California to try something new and pilot that. So that's what we got approval for last year and to use it on this project. And then when we have this installed, because you have this pilot, you need to do research support, and that we have a contract with UC Davis to support research, so that we'll do reports on how effective this was after the year and a half of implementation. So go ahead, next slide. Okay. So the types of contrast we're going to be used in the southbound direction, we'll use orange that'll precede the white lane line, like you see on the top left there. And then on the northbound direction, the lane lines will have orange along the sides. Part of the reason we chose that options is if you're driving southbound, a lot of times the low winter sun will kind of fade out stripes. So we wanted to have a really visible one for the southbound. Go ahead, next slide. And then for what we call like trap lanes and your gores at on and off ramps, in those cases, we're going to use the same, what we call the Oreo pattern, because just like we're doing on the northbound for lane lines, because that's kind of your only option to contrast those. For the right edge line, there'll be an orange stripe along the right side. So you can probably tell from these examples, it's what you're used to seeing on like permanent delineation that has like black contrast. So, and that's what's different about what we're doing in California. It's the first time we've kept the normal delineation, but contrasted it. Okay, next slide. So these are some kind of photo simulations of what it'll look like. That upper left one would be if you're driving in the southbound direction, you'd see this orange stripe preceding the lane lines. And then if you're taking an off ramp, you'd see those gores have orange along the sides. Also the one on the right, upper right, that shows how the lane lines will look in the southbound direction. And then on the bottom slide there, it's our picture. That's how it will look in the northbound direction with the Oreo pattern, we call it, along the sides of the stripe, both sides. Let's the next slide. Now I'm going to go to a polling question. I was wondering, like, are you aware of the reduced speed on this I-5 corridor within the construction zones? Yeah, that's good. That's a real high percentage of people that are aware. So that's good news. Yeah, I'm glad to see so many of you are following the safety precautions and being aware of this work zone speed reduction to protect our MCC crews who work out on the highway. Now I'd like to address safety throughout the corridor. As many of you are aware, the speed limit is reduced to 55 within the construction zones. And this will be enforced to protect yourself and the construction crews that often work within just a few feet of fast moving traffic, especially when we're in these temporary closures at night with cones. You should be also aware of wrong way drivers and never drive under the influence. This will protect you and helps us prevent wrong way driving collisions. Please also note that fines are doubled within construction zones, so be sure to slow down and stay alert. Now I'd like to hand it off to Marissa Mangan, who's going to be discussing the 2021 Regional Transportation Plan.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Hi, everyone. I'm Marissa Mangan, a planner at SANDAG, and taking a little pause to let you know about some work that we're doing because we're responsible for developing our regional transportation plan every 4 years. Build NCC is a great example of a complete corridor in process, coming to fruition, and the possible projects included in the regional plan align well. So just want to kind of describe that our plan is centered on 5 interrelated strategies that, when linked together, connect our transportation system in a way we've never done before. Starting first with complete corridors, this is how we re-envision highways and major roads to make space for all modes, all while leveraging technology to help keep people and goods moving smoothly on those highways and roads. And in the future, we can even think about new technologies like wireless inductive charging infrastructure that can be embedded in roadways to help facilitate the expansion of electric vehicles, electric trucks for freight, and more. Transit Leap refers to the full range of public transit options that would offer much more frequent and convenient services, everything from higher speed commuter rail to improved light rail services and a whole web of next generation rapid buses that would have better priority on our roadways to cruise by the congestion. Mobility hubs are the third move that's nearest and dearest to my heart. We refer to mobility hubs as whole communities where there's a high concentration of people, travel options, and supporting amenities. It really is a place where you can get a lot of different types of services on demand, have access to a lot of amenities like last mile trip solutions, secure micromobility parking, for example. There could be mobile retail services. Mobility hubs are areas where we're always having an anchor transit station, either at the center or somewhere nearby so that people can connect to and from with ease, and supporting land uses help to round out that mobility hub to make it a thriving place with a mix of uses, a mix of people that are living, working, and visiting the area. Flexible fleets refer to the full range of on-demand options, ranging from micromobility solutions like personal electric bikes or dockless bikes and electric scooters, all the way up through on-demand shuttle services that we refer to as microtransit. The whole range of solutions that help complement existing and future transit services by helping people get to and from, and really helping people connect and make complete shorter trips within communities. We're really thinking about shorter trips as being those under 3 miles. And more than half of the trips that we complete here in our region are on that smaller side. And so it's an opportunity to kind of leverage some of these services and help us to reduce some reliance on driving everywhere and adding to the congestion in our communities. And last, but certainly not least, is the Next operating system, or Next OS, as we like to call it. It really serves as the brain of the transportation system so that we can digitally manage a lot of the services and infrastructure that's put into place and get some valuable data, both real time and historic, on how the services are being used. And it'll allow us to kind of pivot a lot quicker to make changes and be responsive to demand and desires of the community. And it's really, more forward thinking in that regard. And on the next slide, I'd like to talk a little bit about how we're putting these 5 strategies into play with some of our comprehensive multimodal corridor plans. Those CMCPs, as we like to call them, are getting started and getting an early start in implementing some of the visions in the draft plan. There's a dedicated corridor plan already underway for the North County area, and it's allowing staff here at SANDAG, working in partnership with Caltrans, to take a deeper dive and applying those 5 strategies to a specific area and really tailoring the improvements to the area so that we can better connect residents, employees, and visitors at the same time. We realize that North County is truly unique. It boasts thriving employment centers, colleges, a wide range of schools, and a lot of other destinations, recreation and otherwise. And both residents and visitors are going to need much more reliable options to get around as an alternative to always needing to drive, especially as folks are aging and may not want to or aren't able to drive. It just provides a lot more options. The purple or pink blobs on the map refer to those mobility hub areas that we've identified as part of the plan. And so keeping those within the corridor study are really helping us to determine what are the different roadways that can better connect the hubs, making sure that there's some complete streets improvements identified for the roadways, making their way through the hubs, and also realizing that we're going to need to identify fleets that not only help people get around within the hub areas, us, like communities of San Marcos, Escondido, Oceanside, and Carlsbad, but also getting to places between and beyond the hubs. There's certainly some viable options. Microtransit services is one example where we can get people to the inland areas or outlying areas as well. So it really includes an assessment of those types of services and how we can improve traffic flow on local roads while making them safer to drive and also walk across, and just better connections all around. I'll turn it over to our final panelist of this evening next, Erica Sari.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Erica Sari. I am a consultant to SANDAG and part of the North Coast Corridor project team. And as part of the regional plan and to reduce congestion during construction, the project team is helping to provide resources for commuters that travel this corridor. I work with employers and commuters throughout the San Diego region on the iCommute program and help develop transportation demand management strategies for this project. So the goals of iCommute are to reduce congestion and greenhouse gas emissions, all of that with the purpose to have a better quality of life. So on the next slide, we recognize that with the challenge of construction, there is inevitably cars slowing down and traffic. We want to work with commuters to rethink their commute on the corridor by supporting hybrid work schedules, teleworking, or even ride sharing via carpool, vanpool, or taking transit as ways to reduce cars on the corridor. So iCommute offers various resources that can help develop or enhance commuter benefit programs for companies. And we also work with individuals. I want to tell you today about 2 different campaigns that we're super excited as we're working with companies and community now on these events. We're gearing up for Rideshare Week during October 4th to the 8th and Cleaner Day on October 6th. So I invite you to please visit the iCommute website at icommutesd.com. You can see it on the screen. There you can find more information on how to register for these campaigns, take a pledge, or enter for a chance to win a green weekend. This grand prize includes a weekend Tesla rental, an overnight stay at an eco hotel, and a gift certificate to a vegan restaurant. So it sounds pretty cool. We look forward to each of you making a pledge to rethink your commute and help the environment. So with that, I'll pass the presentation to, I think it's going back to Kathleen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica, Mohammed, David, Brian, and Marissa, all of our panelists who joined us tonight, especially Mayor Matt Hall for his opening remarks. Before we close the presentation and jump into our Q&A portion, we have one final poll for everyone. How did you hear about this virtual open house? Let us know if you heard about it through social media, an e-blast, a postcard, from an employer, word of mouth, or other. Great. Okay. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but it sounds like our e-blast was a good portion of where we received a lot of you all to join us this evening. We are going to go into the Q&A section now for the remaining hour of our presentation. I just want to give everyone another minute or two, though, to add into the chat or the question section on the Q&A button any final questions that you may have. Again, we may not be able to address all of them this evening. We are going to do our best, but whatever we don't get to, we will follow up with you via email and give you a response. So we're going to pause here just for a minute and allow everyone to add in their final questions. Great, thank you, everyone. And please, even as we are answering questions, we're logging these all in real time, so we will do our best to get to you. I'm going to start with the first question from Steve. Steve had asked, what is the current status of the I-5/CA78 interchange project? We're going to hand that to our panelist, Mohammed, to answer for Steve.
Thank you, Caitlin. Yeah, so for the 578 project, that's under a separate environmental document, and that that effort will be starting, I believe, next year or 23. So the funding is available for that environmental document, and it's anticipated to be a 3 to 4 year effort for the environmental phase.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And Mohammed, I'm actually going to leave it with you for another question that we had come in. It was anonymously sent in. The question says, like Carlsbad, Oceanside is also greatly affected by the I-5. When do you expect the HOV to go through Oceanside from Highway 78 to Highway 76?
So that's a good question, and that depends on the funding and priorities for the region, right? So right now, this piece or this portion of extension is not identified as part of the phase 1 improvements, but may be advanced in the near future.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mohammed. David Stebbins, who was our second panelist of this evening, who talked to us about sound walls, is going to be answering the next question that we had come in from Allison. Allison asked and just wanted to confirm, so most of the sound walls won't be built till 2035, aka phase 2 of Build NCC.
Yes, that is that's correct. What we're doing is for the current construction, if the location that we're planning to build the sound walls is outside of the footprint of the future construction work, we're building it. So in other words, we're going to build every sound wall that we can, as long as we're not going to have to rip it out when we do the phase 2 construction. The walls that are being planned for 2035, that's because that's when the freeway widening is going to happen for the outside widening. And those walls are either on top of future freeway embankment or on top of future retaining walls that we can't build until 2035.
Thank you, David. And to keep it on you, we actually had another question come in that says, and this is from Anonymous, but it says, with the sound wall improvements, will any right-of-way acquisition or easements be required?
It depends on the location of the wall. The walls that we're building in this current phase of construction, they're pretty much all require some either wall easements, and if we need a permanent easement, it's typically a very narrow easement that just covers the footing of the wall, and then we also have temporary construction easements. And if a wall is next to the freeway right-of-way or even on private property, we'll purchase temporary construction easements in order to get the construction equipment onto private property to build that wall.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. Great. Mohammed, we actually have another question for you that did come in. And this is asking a woman, Jeanne. She lives off of the I-5, off of Las Flores. She wants to know, will we be losing our northbound or southbound on and off ramps?
So as part of the phase 1 improvements, we do not plan on closing down any ramps, on ramps or off ramps to Las Flores.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mohammed. And then we had a question come in from Shari. This is for you, David, as well. And the comment says, I do not see Cassidy or Las Flores streets on the sound wall graphic. All other current streets that have either bridges over the freeway or under are noted. Are you sharing that these two streets will be taken out of our circulation in Oceanside and South Carlsbad?
No, those streets will remain in place. The graphic was a little bit rough, and I don't think the graphic covered as far as Oceanside either. But yeah, those streets will remain in place. And thanks for asking.
Great, thank you so much. And we are continuing to still get a good portion of questions coming through. So our next one is actually going to be for Marissa with SANDAG regarding regional plan. And this question is from Michael. He said, we keep hearing about these 5 moves, but when will we see these 5 moves actually have impact on mobility on traffic?
Sure, happy to take that one now that I got my camera to operate. We've already kind of actually started implementing some of the 5 big moves, specifically with flexible fleet pilots. We've had our hand in the Carlsbad connector as an example, microtransit service connecting to and from the coaster, had a neighborhood electric vehicle shuttle service in Oceanside branded as Hoot Rides as a proof of concept to kind of get our feet wet with this type of new service, and active discussions with North County Transit District in terms of how they can think about their fixed route local bus services and what could be suitable for more on-demand services in this more suburban environment. That in addition to getting started on Central Mobility Hub planning and that for San Ysidro Mobility Hub planning further south in the region. So we're taking steps already to implement some of these moves, and in the near term getting started with some of those flexible fleet pilots. And something that I do personally in my quote unquote spare time is try to engage with non-public sector professionals, whether they be developers, property management companies. We already have a robust employer program to kind of educate them on the mobility hub concept specifically, and kind of encouraging them to integrate some of those types of concepts into their own developments, because they're adding to the puzzle, so to speak, and how we deploy some of these services and amenities and technologies in our communities.
Thank you so much, Marissa. That was very helpful. Mohammed, we have a question again for you, and this comes in from Michael as well. And he just asked, when will the express lanes be built?
So we will be, as part of the phase 1 improvements, we'll be providing basically 1 express lane in each direction, right? And that's scheduled to be complete by end of 22, right? And then the phase 2 improvements will provide that 2nd express lane in each direction in 2035, according to our current regional transportation plan.
Great, thank you so much, Mohammed. And then we have a question for Brian. Brian Hadley is our Caltrans resident engineer for overseeing this portion of the project, and he talked a little bit with us about orange lane striping, which is a pilot program in California, as well as safety along the corridor. Question came in from Greg, and he said, what is the reason behind the difference in orange striping in northbound and southbound, which is a solid long orange stripe preceding white stripe? We'll give that over to Brian to be able to answer for you, Greg.
Okay. Yeah, well, we use 2 different versions of contrast stripe. The most common one you see on permanent striping is the orange or the black contrast along the sides, the Oreo version, because that's kind of how that tape stripe lane line comes out, with the contrast just incorporated in the tape lane line. But you can also create those kind of lane lines with like thermoplastic materials and others. But and then a lot of times, if you're having issues with sun angles, like in east-west routes or north or southbound routes, sometimes we'll contrast also with the black line preceding the lane lines. And so in this pilot we're doing, we wanted to test both of our types of lane lines that we use in this state, and just to see which is most effective. I mean, it's probably likely the southbound version with the orange stripe preceding the lane line would be most effective, but we want to do the research on both types of lane lines, and then get public opinion on both types also. So yeah, so we're just basically going with the 2 types of alternatives we use for contrast striping. And then the other thing is we need to always, when we do the gores or trap lanes to exit ramps, or in that version, you have only one option with the Oreo version.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brian. Mohammed, we have another question from you from Anonymous, and this is generally asking, when will work over the Agua Hadley Lagoon Bridge begin?
Okay, we're going to begin the work on the project in the week of October 11th. Or no, sorry. Yeah, that's right. The October 11th. And but that's the first week or so is just construction area signs and the striping, and then we're going to do some rehab of the shoulders and lanes planned for like the last week in October. And then striping will come in November. I'm not sure specifically what you mean over the bridge type of work, but
Yeah, I think that actually helped answer it though, Brian.
okay, all right.
Yeah. The next question is going to be for Mohammed, and this came in from Nancy. Nancy asks, is the city of Oceanside planning on pedestrian walkways and bike lanes and artwork for city underpasses? It's a good question, Nancy. Mohammed will help answer that.
Thank you for the question. And yes, we are planning that. And for phase one, that would be for that community enhancement at Chestnut Avenue. And so we're working with the city to provide that. And so we're excited about that progress on that Chestnut community enhancement. And I was going to ask you, Caitlin, if I could just follow up on a previous question related to the Los Flores ramps. So that the northbound on-ramp, that will be subject to closures and maybe also extended closures like what we've referred to on our other segments, super closures. So that one will be subject to kind of an extended closure as part of the improvements here. And it will not be closed permanently after construction. It'll continue to be open after construction's complete.
Thank you, Mohammed. Marissa with SANDAG, we have two questions actually for you. So I'll start with the first one, and this one comes from Michael. And he says, when will the coaster have a stop in University City / connect with the MTS trolley?
Sure. Our regional plan assumes that by 2035, one of those commuter rail connections will connect National City all the way up to Sereno Valley. So that is a very key corridor for jobs connections, and that would include, finally getting Sereno to a UTC connection fulfilled, and so that there could be seamless transitions to the light rail going into place now.
Excellent. Thank you, Marissa. And we're going to keep you there for one more minute. We have a question from Stephen, and he said, what can be done for silent horns through the Carlsbad Barrio corridor, considering the increased volume of trains?
I'm not sure if I'm the best person to answer the question about the silent horns, so I would maybe defer to the other staff on the call.
Okay, yeah, Mohammed maybe may have an answer for that one. Might have lost you there. Stephen, you had sent through that question. We're gonna earmark that and make sure we get back to you. If you didn't already fill out your email and stuff for us, make sure you send that over to our team so we can get back to you at least with that answer. Okay, so moving down, we have a couple of questions that came in. So this one is also from another Stephen, and this is for you, Mohammed. Is there an update on the I-5 and 78 exchange?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
No worries. Yeah, we're moving through. There's a very active crowd here tonight, which is great for a Wednesday at almost 7 p.m. So Stephen asks, is there an update on the I-5 and 78 exchange?
Is that the interchange? Update on the I-578 interchange?
Yes.
Not more than, I guess what I've shared earlier as far as where we're at with the environmental phase. And that's scheduled to start next, I believe it's next year. And it's a 3 to 4 year document. So that's where we're at with the 578 interchange. That project will also look at the configuration of the connectors and ramps, and potentially also including within that scope the interchange of lost floors, just because of the vicinity to 78. So that will be a separate environmental document that will study that scope.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Mohammed, we're going to keep you here. We have a really good question in from Dan. He said he's a big fan of the DARS, the direct access ramp. Do we plan on any on the I-5 between Carlsbad and 78, between Palomar Airport Road and Carlsbad up to SR 78?
I'm sorry, serve that one more time, Caitlin.
Yeah, coming at you with a question from Dan. He said he's a big fan of the DARS. Do you plan on
Right.
any between Palomar Airport Road and SR 78?
Can we get back to Dan on that one?
Yeah, Dan, we can get back to you on that one. So Dan, if we don't have your email, please make sure that we have it so we can send you an email with further information in the coming weeks.
Thanks for the question, Dan.
We have a question from Sonia, and she says, or I think I pronounced that correctly, Sonia. What date is the I-5 freeway carpool lanes going to be complete? We may not have a hard and fast date for you, but Mohammed can maybe give you a ballpark there.
So the completion of the I-5 carpool lanes up to 78,
Yes.
end of 22.
You heard it from Mohammed himself. So we're aiming for end of 2022.
That's our target.
Mohammed, that's one lane in each direction though, right? And they're in the
Correct.
2035, they're going to add a second lane in each direction.
Correct. Thanks, Dave.
Excellent. Okay, so David, I heard your voice. So I'm going to ask you a question that did come in from Steven. And he says, I recall only seeing sound walls on the east side of I-5 between Tarmac and Carlsbad Village Drive. What are plans for sound walls on the west side in that segment?
We do have a sound wall plan for the west side of the freeway in that segment. Again, both of those walls are planned for the 2035 project. Both walls rely on the future freeway widening, and they're going to be on top of retaining walls in that area.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. Sonia did send in another question that we're hoping we can answer for you. And this is for you, Mohammed. It's a generalized question of, will traffic be an issue during construction going from Carlsbad to Oceanside?
Yeah, like I mentioned in the presentation, right? There will be probably challenges with congestions early on, similar to these segments to the south. But as traffic gets used to the construction impacts, then hopefully that will taper off.
Excellent. So we do have another sound wall question for you, David, and this is from Shari. And Shari says, when do the sound walls get installed in Oceanside shown in the sound wall graphic?
Yeah, in Oceanside, again, that's a phase 2 project. So at 2035 is when those are planned to be built.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so we're still getting a good number of questions come through. Please feel free to continue using the chat option as well as the Q&A option at the bottom to send in some questions for our panelists. So our next question actually comes in from Allison, and this is going to be for Mohammed regarding Buena Vista Lagoon. Are there any plans to improve pedestrian access to the Buena Vista Lagoon as mitigation for the road work, like has happened at Encinitas during their road construction?
So for the Buena Vista Lagoon restoration, that's the question.
Correct.
Okay, and yes, that is a separate environmental document. And I don't have details on the timing for those restoration improvements. Can we get back to the person that asked the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Allison, if you can just make sure that we have your information, we will definitely try and get back to you with some answers on that. So just make sure, Allison, that we have your information. That would be greatly appreciated. Our next question is also for you, Mohammed, and it comes in from Joel. And he just says, are there any off-ramps being affected by the 2035 improvements?
Yes, so with the 2035 improvements, the phase 2 improvements, right? That's additional widening to the outside, and that would impact ramps, all the ramps basically, as part of the phase 2 improvements. That's going to require additional widening in order to squeeze in that second express lane in each direction.
Great. Thank you so much, Mohammed. And Joel did send in another question, and this is going to be directed for David Stebbins, our sound wall expert. And Joel asked, I live on the west side of I-5 north of the Jefferson Street overpass. Is there any plan to have a sound wall in my location?
This is the west side of the freeway north of Jefferson Street overpass. That's correct, Caitlin? Okay. We looked at that area, and our environmental document did not recommend a wall in that location. So yeah, at this time, no, we're not planning a wall in that area.
Great. Thank you so much, David. So we have a question here for you, Mohammed, and it's kind of a generalized comment in regards to the entire Build NCC project and the expansion along the I-5. And this comes in from Renee, and Renee asked, why is the project only focused on HOV lanes rather than widening the whole highway for all of us? Mohammed, if you wanted to answer Renee or let us know if we want to send an email back to her.
So the question again, why only carpool lanes versus widening the entire highway?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. Can we get back to Renee? Yeah, let's get back to Renee.
Okay, thank you. Renee, if you just can make sure that we have your email, that would be great. I know you've sent in a couple of questions, so please make sure that we have your email and we'll try and get back to you. David Stebbins, bringing you back up. Shari sent through a question that says, are those the only sound walls proposed for Oceanside? I believe Shari is referring to the ones that we had talked about on your slides.
Those are the recommended walls at this time. We are going to be relooking at the recommendation when we get into the design of the phase 3 project, and some additional walls might come up. It's also important to note that if walls are on private property, even if it needs temporary construction easement, it requires 100% of the property owner's participation to build that wall. So if somebody in the middle of the wall drops out and doesn't want to sell property, doesn't want the wall at their property, that could eliminate the entire wall. So there will be some changes, but yeah, those are the recommended walls at this time.
Thank you so much, David. Great. So Mohammed, we have a question for you regarding funding. This question came in from Greg. Greg says, assuming the infrastructure package currently in Congress passes, could additional funding be directed to I-5 North Coast Corridor and move the construction date of 2035 for the second express lane in the northbound/southbound to happen sooner?
Anything is possible depending on the region's priorities. That's where I'd like to leave it. And then to follow up on another question regarding DARs, in our NCC plan, the only DAR is at Manchester for our plan.
Yes, and if anyone is ever interested in just seeing some of our documents or PDFs and maps planning for this, you can go to keepsanDiegomoving.com/build-NCC. And the third tab over, there's going to be a document/construction notices tab. And we keep our documents, excuse me, there's a documents tab, and we keep the documents listed on there, including any map layouts, upcoming improvements, et cetera, pretty updated frequently. And specifically, we're going to be updating one of our Manchester Ave Interchange PDFs that'll be online too, that does have the direct access ramp as a plan. Great. So our next question is also from Joel, who we've had a couple questions come in from you, Joel. So thank you so much for being so engaged with us this evening. Joel had asked, and this is for you, Mohammed, as well, will the initial express lane support fast track or just HOV and clean air vehicles?
So the initial HOV lane is for carpool and clean air vehicles. And then we're also looking at potentially looking at the feasibility, right, of converting to fast track.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, please continue to send in some of your questions. Shari, we have a question from Shari, which I can answer, which says, will you email a link to the presentation to participants? Yes, all of this, as mentioned earlier, is going to be recorded as well. So this will live on SANDAG's YouTube page in both English as well as translated into Spanish. And then at participants' request, if they would like the copy of this actual presentation, feel free to let us know and we can definitely email it to you. It is all accessible and available. So thank you, Shari, for asking. Great. So we do have a couple more questions coming in and continue to send them in using, of course, your Q&A or the chat option there. Shari, got your email. Thank you for sending that over. So David Stebbins, again, our sound wall expert, go-to guy for all things related to that. We have a question that just came in from Karen. I will read it out loud now. We live adjacent to the poinsettia off. No sound walls were planned. We are running at 83 decibels on a regular day prior to the opening of the additional traffic lane. This is already unacceptable. Why was a sound wall not considered for our housing development along the off-ramp?
Let me look into that and we'll answer in an email on that one.
Excellent. Thank you. Karen, if you can just make sure that we have your email, that would be great. And Renee, thank you so much for that kind comment on a late Wednesday night. We're doing our best over here. So thank you for saying those kind words. Yes, just make sure we have your email, Karen. That would be great. So Yang Pak is actually with us this evening, and Yang is the Caltrans resident engineer for segment 2-3 is what we call it internally. And of course, that's what you're seeing right now with the expansion in Encinitas. So he oversees all of that. And we have a question that came in related to his portion of work from Amy. Amy asked Yang, are changes being made to the current on and off ramps on the Birmingham exit? And is that also part of the phase 2 plan?
This is only the phase 1 plan. So phase 2 is in the future, 2035.
And for everyone who's been bearing with us on our 56-hour weekend ramp closures, we do have one this weekend coming up, and then we have one more after that. So we appreciate everyone's patience and kind of working with us, and it's really great to see all the progress that's being made along the I-5. So we have a question that came in from Michael actually, I'm sorry, John. And John asks, this is for you, Mohammed, Are there any updates regarding lowering the train tracks through the village?
Could we get back on that one? I'm not sure exactly what is meant by the question, lowering the train tracks through the village.
Yeah, that's a good point. John, if you're still with us and you asked that question, if you wouldn't mind maybe expanding upon your question in the chat button, or email us, or make sure you just drop in your email and we'll try and get back to you and kind of figure out getting some answers over to you. Okay, so we have another question that came in, and this is from Anonymous, and this is also for you, Mohammed, and we kind of briefly have talked about this. Again, anything's possible, but a lot of it does, of course, come back to funding. And the question just asked, is there any way to make the HOV extension from Highway 78 to Highway 76 a reality sooner than later? If so, how would we be able to advocate for this possibility?
Caitlin, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I could not before.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I was muted. Okay. So the question is, how can we make the extension from 78 to 76 happen sooner, right? Yeah, I mean, like you said, Caitlin, we touched on it earlier, and it really depends on the availability of funds and the region's priority. The region may be advocating and having, elevating that portion of the extension in priority, but that's really what it comes down to.
Thank you, Mohammed. So Yang, who we all heard from recently, we have another question for Yang, and this comes in from Renee. Renee asks, the northbound off-ramp to Poinsettia is very bumpy. Is this going to get fixed eventually?
Yes, right now we're transition between the PCC paving and the HMA paving. So once we complete the white paving, concrete paving, then we're gonna have fix all the bumpy situation. And also we're gonna have a final lift for the rubberized HMA at the end. So it will be smooth, yeah.
Thank you so much, Yang, and thank you, Renee, for that question. The next question we actually have is from Michael, and Michael is asking a question for Mohammed, our project manager, and he says, will there be a direct access ramp in the 2035 plan, like on the I-5, i.e. Del Lago, George Cook?
Can you repeat that last part, Caitlin? Like what?
Like Del Lago and George Cook.
Oh, so those are references to, I think, the I-15 corridor?
Yes, correct, the I-15.
Okay, so are there any other DARs that are similar to those? Again, the only DAR that is within the NCC plan that's remained in the NCC plan is the DAR at the Manchester location.
Thank you, Mohammed. And Mohammed, we do have a question that came in from Stephen, and it's a good question. You've been hearing this year a lot. So Stephen's been hearing a lot of 2035 mentioned several times. He asks, is that the project beginning or is that the project ending?
Oh, so for the phase 2 improvements related to 2035, that's being in construction. Construction completion 2035 per the RTP.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mohammed. Yes, we have different phases. So 2035 is part of phase 2, Stephen. Great. So I'm going to jump back up to a question we actually had earlier in the night. And this is for you as well, again, Mohammed, and this is from Greg. Greg says, as a follow-up on the I-578 interchange 2022/2023 environmental impact, when is the actual construction estimated to begin?
Can we table that question as far as a start date? So we do have funding for the environmental phase, right? Depending on that outcome, and when we secure funding for the design and construction phase, that will kind of help set the timeline for that start of construction. Right now, we are only funded through the environmental document phase.
Thank you, Mohammed. And Greg, feel free to drop in your email if you haven't already done so for us, so we can log that and potentially get back to you with some further information. Tim had sent in, Tim, you had sent over a question, Tim, if you're still with us. And Tim had asked, can intersection signal light efficiency be improved on local complex intersections? So Tim, if you don't mind sending in your email to us so we can table this and make sure that we get back to you later. Hopefully you're still with us, Tim. That was your question related to traffic operations. Okay, so we have a couple follow-up questions. Mohammed, this one's for you. It says, thank you, Mohammed. Which agency or agencies would one appeal to make the extension from Highway 78 to Highway 76 a reality sooner rather than later?
Good question. Let's get back to him on that.
All right, Anonymous, you heard that. So if you don't mind dropping in your email, that would be great, so we can make sure we get back to you in the coming weeks with an answer to that. We have another question related to funding. Mohammed, I'll read it out loud and, just let us know if we need to table it and get back to anyone a little bit later. But we have a question from Kurt. Kurt says, are there other projects in the county competing for funds which might be used to extend the HOV lanes from 78 to 76?
So there are multiple priorities for the region. And yes, so to answer the question, yes, there are multiple priorities competing for the funds.
Thanks, Mohammed. Michael asked a question. Michael, thanks again for asking all these great questions. Mohammed hopefully can be able to answer this. And Michael asked, why were the other direct access ramps removed from the NCC plan?
Oh, this is a dark question, right? So can I phone a friend on this one?
Yeah, we can phone a friend for sure.
Is Alan available to speak as well and answer some of these questions?
Yeah, so I don't believe Alan is actually with us this evening. However, Michael Mitchell, if we don't already, oh, sorry for saying your last name, but if we don't already have your email, send it in on us. And Mohammed, maybe we phone Alan later and then get an email over to Michael by next week with a response.
Sure.
All right, Michael, make sure you send us your email whenever you get a chance. That'd be really appreciated. So we also have another question that did come in, and this is a funding related question again, but this person has said, I understand that it's based on the region's priorities and funding, but who is setting the priorities? Mohammed, I don't know if you have an answer to that.
So yeah, SANDAG would be setting our priorities for the region.
Great, thank you so much, Mohammed. And fortunately, we've had Marissa with us tonight from SANDAG representing regional plan. So if you have any questions related to that too, we still have Marissa with us. So hopefully we can help answer some more questions. So we have a question from Tom. Tom just reached out and he said, this is for you, Mohammed. We're leaving you as a permanent DJ for a little while, but will the carpool requirements be 2+ or 3+ persons per vehicle?
The carpool lanes will be 2+, which is consistent with the configuration just to the south of here, south of Loma Santa Fe.
Excellent. Thank you so much for answering that. Okay, so Of course, if we haven't gotten back to you yet, please either send us your email. Maybe it was just a question that we were not prepared for to answer right now, but we definitely want to make sure we get back to you. And we have about 30 minutes, give or take, left of the presentation. I'm going to be drinking some water here shortly, so you don't have to hear my scratchy voice. But I have a question that came in from Marissa, so I'll be handing it over to Marissa momentarily to answer. And this question says, how do we reach out to you and your team to possibly influence the region's priorities?
Sure, thanks for that. Right now is a perfect time to be providing comments on our draft regional plans environmental impact report. We had a comment period for the regional plan itself. We have a wealth of information on sdforward.com, and I'll drop that link into the chat. I'm happy to also give you my email address so I can direct you to the right staff to answer specific questions that you might have on elements contained within the plan. But all of the public comments that we're receiving, both for the plan and the environmental impact report, are being reviewed and individually responded to, and will be all published and included. But we really do appreciate the feedback. We want you to explore the plan and the environmental document and help shape the future of the region. Knowing that this is a plan that we'll keep iterating upon, it serves as the high-level blueprint for the region, and we keep refining on it every 4 years.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Marissa. And to kind of keep you on the line for a second, would you mind briefly explaining who is on the SANDAG board? This was a request from someone on the chat just now.
Sure. Our SANDAG board's comprised of mayors and/or council members from all jurisdictions in the region. And we also have some advisory members based from our transit agencies, Caltrans, the port, et cetera. So it's the local electeds that serve on our board and approve plans like the regional plan and other projects.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, if you have any further questions, please send them in. We do have a response actually briefly that was dropped in there from our District 11 North Coast Corridor Director, Alan Kossep, in reply to your question, Michael, that asked, why were the other direct access ramps removed from the NCC plan? Previously, Mohammed wanted to phone a line, and that line came in via quick chat from Alan. And Alan had said, there was a direct access ramp that was originally studied at Cannon/Palomar Airport, but it was dropped because of local and coastal impacts. Thank you, Alan, for helping answer that. Great. And thank you, Marissa, who just dropped into the chat further information about mobility planning as well as the regional plan. And that can be found at sdforward.com. Great. So we have a couple more questions that we're hoping to address right now. So Mohammed, the next question is for you. And this came in from Tom. Tom says, will motorists be able to enter and exit the carpool lane at any time? Or will there be a double white lines with certain entrance endpoints?
Good question. So for this stretch of the facility, it would be continuous access, meaning that they can enter and exit at any time. For the majority of the stretch, there might be a portion where it is intermediate access only, but the majority of that 4-mile stretch would be continuous access.
How about south of Palomar Airport Road?
South of Palomar Airport Road, can you remind me, Dave?
Yeah, I believe it is going to be intermediate access points south of Palomar Airport Road. The section in Carlsbad, north of Palomar Airport, is going to be the continuous access.
Thank you.
Great. And Michael, we did receive your question related to digital signage. If there's any specific ones that you're referring to, please let us know so that we can follow up with hopefully a better answer and concrete answer for you. Okay, and thank you, Karen. Karen just sent over a question related to sound walls and decibels. Karen, we are definitely logging this, and we'll make sure that we get back to you. And thank you for adding your email in there for us. Great. So right now, that kind of we answered majority of the questions that came through. So thank you to everyone who's been hanging on with us for this evening. I do have another question that came in from Michael a little bit earlier. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. And this question, it says, there's a push for people to take mass transit like the coaster, but it's often not on time, doesn't run regularly. When will the Del Mar bypass start construction?
I'm happy to take that one, Caitlin.
That'd be great. Thank you so much, Marissa.
According to our plan, we have a Del Mar bypass slated in 2035. You're able to check out an interactive map of all the regional plan projects that we have included in the plan. I'll drop that link into the chat as well, but it's sdforward.com/envision. I can't speak to when construction would start since it's an outer year of the plan, but we do have it accounted for, and you'll be able to see it on the map with how the purple line goes on the map, goes kind of inland a little bit before it reconnects with the existing rail corridor.
Great. Thank you so much, Marissa.
And for what it's worth, this fall coaster will be running at about 35% more often. So there'll be more trains and you can enjoy more frequencies to get to and from between North County and downtown.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay. So we have another question that just came in. This is from Denya. Denya says, how will the construction be procured, alternative delivery or bid build? Mohammed, I'm not sure if you're able to potentially take on that question from Denya, but it's how will the construction be procured, alternative delivery or bid build?
Yeah, so this construction will be, or construction of this project will be procured via CMGC, construction manager, general contractor, which is also consistent with the previous contracts as well. This procurement tool started off as a pilot when we started construction in 2017 on the south end, and now it has become a standard tool for the state to use. So it is CMGC.
Thank you so much. And Denya, if you have any further questions about that, feel free to let us know. Mohammed, Alan, and the whole team are experts on the CMGC model. So Marissa, we do have another question for you. And this came in from John. SANDAG and North County Transit District were exploring the option of lowering the train tracks below street level through the village, separating train traffic from street traffic and reducing noise. This was from a previous SANDAG presentation. John was wondering if there were any updates to this.
Yeah, we can paste the link in the chat, but one of our communications staff, Teddy Jackson, was very helpful earlier on in the Q&A and dropped a City of Carlsbad website that explains kind of the status of where that study is. It's in study period, only at the moment in a preliminary planning phase. Funding for the project hasn't been secured as of yet, and a timeline for final design and construction has not yet been set. That's at least what I'm reading from the City of Carlsbad site.
Thank you so much, Marissa. So we have a question that came in a little bit earlier today. This is from MDR, and this is for David Stebbins. It's kind of just a generalized question, and MDR says, what will be done to mitigate the noise from additional traffic nearer to homes near the freeway?
Yes, as part of the environmental document, we do perform a noise study looking at the entire corridor, the additional lanes, the location of the new traffic, and the noise study. It looks at whether or not a wall can reduce the noise. If a wall is effective in reducing the noise, then we have a decision document, and that's it's based on requirements of Title 23 of the Code of Federal Regulations, and to justify a wall, it's basically a cost benefit analysis. So it looks at how expensive the wall is, and how much benefit it provides for the houses adjacent to the freeway. So in that decision document, it'll recommend whether to build the walls. But yeah, we look at the entire corridor and the traffic addition and the fact that it's located closer to the houses. Those documents are available at the Build North Coast website on the Keep San Diego Moving webpage too.
Thank you so much, David. All right, everyone. So we're nearing 7:35 p.m., just 5 minutes past my bedtime. But no, I just want to take a minute and thank everyone for taking time out of your evening to be with our team tonight. Really wanted to give a special thank you to Mayor Matt Hall for joining us, as well as our panelists, Mohammed, David, Brian, Erica, Marissa, and Yang, for answering all of everyone's questions. If we didn't get to your question, please send us an email or drop your question in the chat comment with your email so we can make sure we get back to you. Just a friendly reminder, this meeting, of course, was recorded. So the presentation will be live on SANDAG's YouTube page, both in English as well as translated into Spanish. And last but not least, stay up to date with us. We really encourage you to stay up to date with any construction and upcoming community enhancements by visiting keepsandiego.com/buildncc. Follow SANDAG and Caltrans on social media. And if you'd like to sign up for text alerts, you can text 313131. Well, we're going to have one more question actually that just came in, and we want to make sure that we're able to answer that. So let me open that real quickly for us all. Just one moment. It looks like opening it now. Yeah, of course. You're welcome, Denia. Thank you. So the last question that we got was, how can we get construction updates, and what is the best way to stay up to date on information? Thank you, Kara, for asking that question. I can take that for you. Also just got a message, can you be a talk show host? Yeah, maybe that's my next calling or this calling. No, so the different ways to connect with us are actually on the screen here for everyone. Of course, keepsandiegomoving.com/buildncc is going to be the hub for all things Build NCC with different PDF updates, maps, etc. If you ever want to get a hold of us, email us directly at buildncc@keepsandiegomoving.com. Promise we'll get back to you. If you also like to call us, our number is 844-NCC-0050, or you can text 313131 and you'll receive text alerts. For example, some people who are receiving text alerts did receive an alert for tonight's presentation last week, inviting everyone to join. And then, of course, we encourage you to follow us on SANDAG, Twitter, as well as Facebook and Instagram, as well as on YouTube, and then Caltrans, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and YouTube. Okay. Well, thank you again for everyone for joining us. It was really great I didn't get to see anybody, but you got to see me for too long. So we'll end it here, and you guys all have a great night, okay? Thank you.